Hi, smart English students. Welcome to Unit 3 called Writing. We have, during this course, been hearing English, we've been speaking English, we've been reading English, some beautiful English. We just read some beautiful poems. And now we're going to pull it all together in the writing part of this course. Unit 3, Writing. Writing is a language skill which is necessary to express oneself effectively. Appropriate format and style should be adopted, depending on the purpose of the writing. Sustained writing involves organized ideas, presenting them in a logical sequence, and expressing in coherent paragraphs. The content, purpose, and the audience are to be kept in mind. Now we will produce a piece of beautiful writing. It's actually a flower. In the middle, or the inside of the flower, is clear, fluent, and effective communication of ideas. So when we write any work, any paragraph, any story, we want to have a clear, concise flow of ideas. And this flower has 9 petals. And we start over here at 3 o'clock. We start with our reason for writing, is the audience. And the audience is the readers that are going to read this particular work of art. When you're in school, of course, your audience will be the other students and most importantly, your teacher. That's your audience. Then the purpose. What is the purpose of your writing? It's to show what you know about a subject or do some creative poem or work of art. And then we go down to the word choice. What words do we use? We've been having a lot of vocabulary and we want to use the words that are appropriate to the ideas that we're trying to convey. If it's a scientific work, we use scientific words. If it's a poem, then we use beautiful expressive words. So we have a big choice of what we use for words. Organization. Then we start thinking, how am I going to organize this piece of work? Okay? Which kind of paragraphs will I use? Will I use any illustrations? Then we go into the mechanics. Mechanics are spelling. We have our dictionary there, or our laptop to make sure we do the right words. And then we say it out loud. We come up with some ideas, and we see which mechanics we're going to use for this work. Grammar. We have our grammar book there. We want perfect grammar so that the audience will feel comfortable with hearing the ideas that you are presenting. The syntax is sentence structure, sentence boundaries, stylistic choices. What kind of style do we want to use? A narrative style or a creative style? We want to see which one would be better for this particular subject. And then we go into our content. Content is the relevance, clarity, originality. And the subject we're going to discuss today, which is linkers, falls right in over here, between content and the process. The process is using your ideas, getting started, actually starting with the writing drafts, and rewriting the drafts. In between content and the process, we use the best linkers we can to convey our ideas. So, we go into our subject today, which is linkers. Another word for linkers are connectors. They connect ideas. They link together parts of your words and sentences into coherent paragraphs. Linkers help us establish our ideas explicitly. They make it easy for us to compare, contrast, illustrate, define, and summarize our thoughts and develop a coherent, persuasive paragraph. And they show an example. We read earlier in our textbook about Borges and his autobiography that he had written. And he told about his mother. We pull a paragraph from that, and he says, "My mother was an extraordinary person, and I should speak above all of her kindness towards me." This was an exceptional mother that really took good care of him. But, and you can see but is underlined here, I'll tell you a secret of mine because, another underline, because I feel somewhat guilty for not having been a happy man or a happy boy in order to, which is underlined, to give her a deserved happiness. He knew later on in his life that he should have made his mother feel better, okay? Therefore, which is also underlined, therefore I feel I should have been more understanding of her. So you see, we have Borges here and his mother over here. And his mother is not so happy looking. And he thought to himself later on when he was writing his autobiography, I should have made my mom more happy, which is a lesson for us. Try to make your mother more happy. Anyway, let's go to these underlined words, okay? And our assignment is, can you identify the function of the underlined words and mention them in the space given below? So all of these underlined words are listed here, called connectors, another word for linkers. And the connector, and the first one is and. So the function of using and between two sentences is to connect them. So let's see if we're right. And the function is connecting. Let's go back. The next word is but. But, he makes it in his paragraph, he says this thing, but, and then he goes on to another idea. What is the purpose of but? What's the function? The function of but is the transition, to go from one idea to the next idea. Let's go back. Because, what is the function of because? The function of because is the reason. I wanted to make my mother happy because I felt she should have been happier. So that's the reason. Because is a reason. Then we look at in order to. What does the function of in order to? It's to show the purpose. The purpose of what he's talking about. And then we go back to therefore. Therefore is a summation. We put together in our paragraph many sentences, and then we summarize it to make a final emphatic impression upon the reader. So let's go. Therefore is to summarize. If these words are missing, then you can see the paragraph does not convey the right meaning. These 5 words make the whole paragraph come alive. These words are called linkers. Linkers are the words that relate one idea or sentence of the text with another. So let's go ahead and look at the following table. Now this table gives us some great linkers. These are the beginning linkers that we all should have command of. And then we can go into more creative and fun linkers. But let's study the list and their functions, okay? So during an article, we want to come up with new ideas, all right? We have one idea and then we want to add some other ideas. So the function of these link words is the addition. So we have one sentence and we want to add another idea. So the words we use, as you can see from the first illustration, was and. And is used a lot. There's also, there's besides, there's moreover, similarly, and then, you can put and then there, what is more, such as, then, in addition to, and next. All of these words are linkers or connectors with the next sentence. And you can make a variety as you're doing your work. You can use many of these words. Now, sometimes in our paragraphs, we want to show what time this situation is happening. So for time, the linkers we use are when, while, as soon as, before, after, depending on whether the event happened before or after, till, until, eventually, as long as, and since. So all of these happen to do with time. But these linkers help you to show the reader what time this event took place. And now we go to place. We want to show the reader where this event took place. So we use after, where, and wherever, okay? And this will help identify the sentence that we've said when, where it took place, after, where, or when over. And what's the reason? The reason we're writing these sentences, okay? The reason is because, as, that, and since. These are all linkers to go into the reason. I wanted to make my mother happy because I felt I should have made her happier. I should have been a more fun boy, okay? So that's the reason. Purpose. There's a purpose for your whole article or your writing. And so you'll have a sentence, and then you show the purpose of that sentence. And so the linker for that is, purpose is in order that, so that, or lest. You can use any of these words to show the purpose. And then the result of these sentences that you're using, you want to come up with a certain result. And the result is, the linkers are so, such, consequently, a great linker, in conclusion, as a result, in all, thus, and finally. And they show you the result of what we've been talking about. Concession. A concession is that the fact is you tell something, but you concede that there may be another attitude, another idea that may not go along with your idea. So it's called a concession. And this concession linkers are called though, although, even if, however. All right? You can use those linkers. And then the manner of your writing, the manner in which you present your ideas, okay? As you say that the sky is looking beautiful, as you can see the beautiful clouds and the sun over there. It shows the manner. As if, as though. These are all nice words that show the manner of what you're trying to convey. And comparison. Sometimes in your writing you'll have a comparison. So the linkers for comparison are as, than, not so as. And then condition. Sometimes you'll put a condition on your work, okay? A condition. If. I can go to school if I have a ride or if the bus is running, okay? Unless, supposing. These are all conditions that you put on your sentence to go to the next sentence. Now, they want us to find more such linking expressions. They want us to be creative, okay? So what I want to tell you is that in the result, you can use also the following words. To sum up. That's a nice linker. To sum up, this is what should happen, okay? Or lastly. Or in the manner, we've used some words, but for manner you can say positively, this is the way we have to do it. You can say absolutely or without a doubt. These are linkers that make your argument more forceful. And then comparison. You can also say similar to. That's a nice comparison. Also, another idea you can do with the addition, you can add to give examples, okay, with this in mind, and to say evidence of this is. So those are other words you can use, other linker words you can use. And you can also, in your article, give your opinion, all right? So you can start the article, or you can give a little bit of your history. I've been studying this particular subject for 3 years. I've written many stories on that. And you can say, in my opinion, from my point of view, or as far as I'm concerned. These are nice linkers to make your story and present your argument in a more forceful way. And then in summation, you can also say, it goes without saying. So at the end of your article, you can say, it goes without saying that this is the truth. Or you can say, there is little doubt. That's a great linker. There is little doubt. Or you can say, obviously. Obviously, it's a beautiful sky outside. Obviously, this is the best campus to learn English. Or clearly. You can say clearly. Everybody likes to see clearly. So now they want us to have some practice. And so they've given us some paragraphs without the linkers. And we have to choose the right linkers for the space in the paragraph. So it says, fill in the blanks with the appropriate linkers given in the brackets. So in the brackets we have because, that, what, and when. So let's read the sentence and put in the appropriate linker. Aesop is a figure clouded in so much mystery and legend, blank, that it is difficult to know. Okay. Aesop, this is a famous old character. There's many stories have been written about Aesop's fables. So we have to put in a linker, difficult to know, and legend. So let's see if what word works. Because it is difficult to know, doesn't work. That it is difficult to know works perfectly. Let's see if that's correct. Aesop is a figure clouded in so much mystery and legend that it is difficult to know. To know what? Okay, let's look at our linkers. Because, that, what, when. It is difficult to know, okay, what can be said about him. When doesn't work, because doesn't work, that doesn't work. What can be said about him? What is the correct word? Let's see. To know what can be said about him. Correct. We go further. It is also strange to believe, then there's a blank, so we have to use that, what, when, or because. Believe that this world-famous man was born a slave in the 6th century. Blank, slaves were bought and sold frequently. So we have two blanks there. It is strange to believe that is the word that fits in there. And then slaves were bought and sold when? In 6th century. So when slaves were bought and sold. Let's see if these are the correct answers. It is strange to believe that this world-famous man was born a slave in the 6th century, when slaves were bought and sold. Fits in perfectly. Aesop's Greek master gave him liberty. He was impressed by his learning and wit. So he gave him liberty. Here he was a slave. The master owned this slave. But because Aesop was so clever and he knew so much, his master gave him liberty. Because he was smart. So because is the linker that fits in there. Let's see if that's correct. Yes. The Aesop's master gave him liberty because he was impressed with his learning and wit. So what is the takeaway on this? It's very good to be a good student. If you're a good student, you can have freedom. Even if you're a slave, sometimes your owner will let you free. You'll be free to do whatever you want to. If you know perfect English and can apply it in a fluent way, you'll be able to do a lot more things. Let's go on to the next idea, the next paragraph. We have here the same instruction. We have to pick out from these words, when, wherever, when, where, so that, however, if. We have to use these linkers in this paragraph talking about Alok. Alok wanted to go into a car race. So we can see him there. He's building a little scooter, a little race car to go racing against these people. And so we have to use the proper linkers. Alok was happy. He was selected to take part in the car race. So the question is, when was he happy? We look in our list of linkers and we have where, when. So let's see if when is the right word. Alok was happy when he was selected to take part in the car race. So that's the proper linker to use. He gladly went. The race was to take place. There's a linker that goes there, okay? Where did he go? He go where the race was going to take place. So we look, and where is there? That's one of the linkers we have. So let's see if that's the right word. He gladly went where the race was to take place. So that's the right linker to use. And then we go on. He was given a car kit, blank. He could build the body of the car using small pieces of wood. So there's we have to look at the linkers, and we see so that, however, if, when, where. And we know that he was given a car kit so that he could build a car. Let's see if that's the right answer. He was given a new car kit so he could build the body of the car with small pieces of wood. So that is a perfect linker. Alok asked Abby, one of his friends, blank, would help him. He asked what? If, can you help me, okay? That's one of the words there. If, however, so that, when, where. Alok asked Abby if he would help him. Let's see if that's right. Alok asked Abby if he would help him. But Abby was busy Abby was busy building his own car. So he said, look, I'm not going to help you. Abby refused, okay? So Alok's stuck with this car kit, and he doesn't know how to do it, but he didn't give up. He went ahead, and we have 5 choices, and none of the choices work except however. However, Alok did not give up. He set out to make his car. Is that right? However, Alok did not give up. He set out to build his car. And you can see, here's Alok with his car in number 1 position. He built a good car, and he did it by himself. Let's go ahead to the next example. Here we have a beautiful temple on a lake. And at this time, rains had failed. The rains had failed. Blank, all the wells and tanks had run dry. This lake was bone dry. This water was not there. So we have a list of linkers, thus, so that, therefore, in order to. We have to pick out the right linker. This is what will be on your exam. You have to use the right linker. So there's no rains, okay? And because of the rains, or therefore, the wells had gone dry. So let's see. We have therefore, thus, so that, in order. Let's use therefore. Is that the right one? The rains had failed. Therefore, all the wells and tanks had run dry. Therefore is the correct linker. To overcome the problem, the multiple authorities sink a number of bore wells. So, let's see what they have in there. In order to, therefore, so that, thus. The best one is in order to overcome the problem. So let's put in order to overcome the problem. That's the right linker to use. In order to overcome the problem, the municipal sank a number of bore wells because the bore wells brought enough water to take care of the people. And why did they do the bore wells? Okay. We have the blank there. They could supply water to the citizens. So we look at our linkers, thus, so that, therefore, in order. So that they could supply water. It goes perfectly. Nice grammar. Here we go. So that they could supply water to the citizens. Then we have a blank. The situation was brought under control. Because of sinking the war wells, all right, the situation was brought under control. And then we look at our linkers. Therefore, in order to, thus, so that. Thus is a summation. And thus, because of the bore wells, the water situation was brought under control. Is that the right word? Thus, the situation was brought under control. So you can see how these linkers tie in the whole paragraph beautifully. Let's see, did they give us another example? Yes, they're very generous. Now, they're talking about in this paragraph, in summer, the rumor of a famine swept through the province. This whole area, there was a big rumor of famine, which was a baseless one. You have to be careful with rumors. Whenever you hear something, you should investigate it and check it out yourself. It had no basis. The crops were growing well. The weather was perfect for a bumper harvest. So there's a blank space, okay? We need a connector. So what is it, these two sentences? The crops were growing well. The weather was perfect for a bumper harvest. It's an addition. There's two ideas. So and, we have and, thus, a result as, but. And is the perfect connector. Let's see if that's right. And the weather was perfect for a bumper harvest. So that's the right connector. On the strength of the rumor, thousands of farmers abandoned their farms. So there's a blank space, okay? Here the weather is nice. They're expecting a bumper harvest. But something happened on the strength of the rumor. But is a connector, a result of, thus and and. But is the best one to use, okay? But as a result, the strength of that rumor, thousands of farmers abandoned and fled to the cities. But is the correct one. That's the correct linker. Because of this, okay, or as a result of this, the crops failed. Because the farmers weren't there, they weren't there to take care of the weeds or even harvest the crop. There was a big failure for the crop. So let's see what the proper linker is. As a result of this, as a result of the farmers running to the city, the crops failed. Thousands and failed. Thousands starved. And then the rumor about the famine proved true. Even though there wasn't going to be a famine because of a bumper crop, we have a summation. The summation word is thus, okay? So let's see. Thus the rumor about the famine proved true. Because these people ran away from their farms, the crops weren't harvested, and a famine did happen. And so the linkers pulled together the whole story. Let's see, I think they give us another example. Oh, this is a nice one. It's about the king. There was once a king, okay, and kings are born to other kings. They're the prince, and they become the king. But this king was born, and he only had one eye, and he had one leg. But because he's the prince, automatically the succession goes to him. So there was a king who had one eye and one leg. But he's the king now. He was the prince, and now he's made the king. And because he's the king, he wants to get a picture made about him. So that he asked all the painters to draw a beautiful portrait of him. So we look at the amount of linkers that were given, and, but, eventually, in spite of. So because of him being one-eyed and one leg, he wants to get a portrait made. So the proper linker is in spite of that problem, he wanted to get a picture made. Let's see if that's the right answer. In spite of that, he asked all the painters to draw a beautiful portrait of him. So in spite of is the proper linker. So none of them, all the painters were thinking, how are we going to make a nice picture of this king? He's only got one eye and one leg. What are we going to do? And they tried and they tried. None of them could. So the word before none is either and, doesn't work, and none of them could do it, but none of them could do it. But fits in perfectly. Let's see. But none of them could. How could they paint beautifully with the defects of one eye and one leg? So they kept trying and trying, and then one painter, okay, later on, and we look at our words, eventually, in spite of, but, and, we've already used but, we've already used in spite of, eventually one painter came up with a good idea. Let's see if that's the right connector. Eventually, one of them agreed and drew a classic picture of the king. He presented the picture of the king. It was a fantastic picture that surprised everyone. So here he is, he drew the picture of the king, And it was a fantastic picture. So the connector is, between the two sentences, is and. We can see that. And is here. And it was a fantastic picture that surprised everybody. He painted the king aiming for a hunt, targeting with one eye and one eye bent, or one leg bent. So he's shooting at the game, and it looked like a fantastic picture. So in spite of many problems, if you're creative, you can come up with a good idea. Let's see, I think they give us one more example, and this comes from our textbook. It's eating soup. It's traveling to Japan, okay? When you go to Japan, they have several quaint customs, and one of them has to do with soup. So let's read the paragraph. Eating soup in Japan is more dangerous than anything else, okay? Because you have to have the right manners. And then they have a blank here. Blank, eating soup, one must make a fearful noise, as it is a sign of appreciation. When they eat soup in Japan, they want you to slurp it up and really get enjoyment out of eating your soup. So we have linkers here, while, because, therefore, however. So what can fit into that space? Eating, because eating, therefore eating, however eating, while eating. Let's try while eating. While is the correct linker. While eating soup, one must make a fearful noise. Let's go back to our paragraph. As it is a sign of appreciation. A European who tries to make such a noise will be considered an ill-mannered lout. So, before a European, okay, we have to fit in one of these words. However, therefore, because. However, okay, even though you're supposed to make a noise, if you're a European at a Japanese house, okay, you got to be extra careful. So let's use the word however, and we'll see if that's the right word. However, a European who tries to make such a noise, perfect, it works in beautifully, will be considered an ill-mannered lout because it is not liked by the Japanese hostess. And why does the Japanese hostess not like it? She wants all of the Japanese people to make a lot of noise. But if you're a Westerner or a European, she knows that in Europe, or even in America, you're supposed to be quiet when you eat, not make noise. So if the person tries to imitate the Japanese and makes a loud noise, then the Japanese hostess will not be happy. And so we have to put in the space here. He'll be considered an ill-mannered lout because it is not liked by the Japanese hostess. Let's see if we're right. Considered an ill-mannered lout because it is not liked by the Japanese hostess. That's the correct linker. So we have used the linkers while, however, because. There's one more linker, okay? And that's on the last sentence. So we use that linker. Therefore, one must be careful in Japan if he or she is offered soup. Let's see if that's the right answer. Yes, therefore. Therefore is a summation. It's usually in the last sentence. So we've discussed here many examples of using linkers. And what is the takeaway? The takeaway is that these linkers make your paragraphs and your story very interesting. You can use clever linkers. Use them in a clever way. And a little bit of humor always helps. And then you can save your best linkers for the end. You can say a linker like, to put it simply, this is what I believe. Or you can say, on top of all of that, on top of that, like the cherry on top of a cake. You can say, this is my final idea. On top of that, in my summation, this is on top of everything I've told you. This is why you have to realize that this campus is the best campus for learning. And then, once you use the proper linkers and you address your readers with love, as you're writing these things out, you engage your heart. And you love your readers. You love the people that are going to read your story. And you want them to read it not only just one time, you want them to read them at least one more time, twice, okay, or more than that. A good piece of writing will be read many times, and it'll be copied and given to many people. And you want your writing to be reread. If your writing is reread, guess what? They feel that that writing has come from a higher power, that you have engaged your heart, and your writing is going to be an indication or a help to many other people. So with that, I'd like to close this session. Thank you for your kind attention. We'll see you at the next class. Om Saram.